What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about PlayStation and their big opportunity and why I believe they absolutely cannot fail us here. Now, I'm going to do another video. It'll probably happen overnight, maybe even while you're sleeping, but I will give you guys my official predictions and kind of what I would really like to see from the state of play. It's 40-plus minutes. It's kind of all around the world type games. This needs to be big, and while, again, we'll go over the specific games that I think should or could be there in a later video. For this one, I just kind of want to talk about the opportunity, right? And like I just said in the opener, they need to nail this. And, you know, it's tough because I try to be Mr. Optimistic. I try to be Mr., see all sides. And, when a show, Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest or whatever, doesn't live up to expectations, I tend to be there almost in defense on the other side as well and say, well, maybe there were some games for people that were not you. We're not me, right? We're not into every game on planet Earth, and sometimes they just have a show that's kind of geared towards one or two types of people, and maybe we're not that type of person. I will say, well, number one, I generally do say that, okay? I try to come in defense of these shows somewhat often, and I do it for that reason. On the other side of things, though, I do think PlayStation is in an interesting spot and not in a spot like those examples, okay? This is their biggest show in terms of minutes and in terms of seemingly this pressure kind of buildup in years. We have had failed showcases. We've had no showcases. I mean, you think back and you say, okay, it's been 2 years since the last showcase. This is not like brand new news, right? Breaking news. Think back to that showcase. That was the terrible one. Now, that's my opinion. It could be yours. Maybe it's not. But that was that live service. I think it was that spring of 2023. And that's when they just went full freaking force and they just showed a bunch of live service stuff. I thought that was the worst showcase they've ever done. They've had much better state of plays even since then that beat the showcases, but they've also had weak state of plays, right? So the thing is, I kind of just said it, right? The quiet part out loud. It has been 2 years since the last big show, and generally they have just been struggling to really put on these epic shows. I mean, you can talk about the console wars and this kind of dying. It feels like Star Wars Episode 3, like kind of right at the end of the droid army. Like you can tell it's kind of wrapping up. It feels like that in the console wars, but at the same time, Xbox and other companies, Nintendo just revealed a freaking console. Xbox has knocked it out of the park every year, really. Every June event, these replacement E3 shows, their events rock. They are extremely good. You look at the Xbox Developer Direct, which kind of when it was first conceived, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a chance, to talk to developers and to kind of have these almost like really personal kind of like documentation type things, but it wasn't like mind-blowing. But this last Developer Direct, they freaking announced a new Ninja Gaiden. They do deep dives into Doom. It was fantastic. PlayStation, it's again, for me right now, I'm kind of just trying to keep it in the presentation, window. If you want to talk about how the consoles are doing, that's separate. You kind of have to go, to a little bit of a different discussion. But, this is kind of the point, right? They have been knocked out cold, really, by so many of these opposing showcases and events over the last couple of years. And specifically, I kind of have avoided, up until this point, talking just about PlayStation themselves. Their fans, and I'm a fan myself, by the way, they're kind of starving. We keep saying it, over and over, but this is a team, of developers that seemingly have struggled. You have a lot of live service games that are canceled. You just had 2 more that were canceled, like a month or 2 ago, at least that we found out about it. For a long time, it seemed like they had this build up, and it seemed like they had, 2, 3, 4, 5 games kind of in their back pocket that for whatever reason they didn't show, but they had it. So you could always play that card, right? That ace in the hole, and you could just show off these games. Well, you showed off Intergalactic, I think, to a mixed response. I would not call that the response that, and I think we've talked about it before. I don't think you wanted the response for Intergalactic that you got. I know it's messy. I know there's all sorts of different kinds of people out there that are talking about that game, but just in general, it was not a game that, like, blew everybody away and kind of, like, just stopped everybody in their tracks, right? And said, this is Naughty Dog's next game. So you already played that card, and to be honest with you, I felt it didn't really work, and that's okay. You have other opportunities and stuff. It's not like the game is destroyed. destroyed, but you have that reveal that I don't think you got back what you wanted for it, right? Then you had Bend, who's been working on a game for 3, 4, 5 years, cancel. Blue Point for 4 years, cancel. So, some of these games that they've had in their back pocket, they no longer have it. It fell out, actually burned in their pocket, and they didn't even realize it. So, now it's like, all right, and you'll see in my predictions video, I mean, they do have some stuff, okay? I do think you got to lean really, really heavily on those big releases, those Wolverines, Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding. Those are some things that I think, not Wolverine for sure, but the other two I think should be at this state of play. But then you probably have to lean into the third-party stuff, which doesn't really help the PlayStation angle, but in terms of because I do think it's important, at least somewhat important, that this online community really has just a negative perception of their state of plays and of their showcases the last 2.5 years. Okay, I think it's maybe not the biggest deal of all time, because again, consoles are still doing well, games are still coming out slower, but they are still coming out. So again, it's a different kind of topic somewhat, but I do think it's important. I think it's something that also, don't we just want a good show? Don't we just want, and this goes back to kind of that initial point, well-rounded. This is not a time to say, well, if you're into live service, boy, do we have the show for you. Everybody else can F off. It's like, no, you kind of already did that actually 2 years ago, and you're not in that position. You are not in the position to have, number one, a bad show, and number two, a show that is just catered towards one type. You got to have those remasters. You got to have those third parties. You got to have those brand new games. You got to have those franchises, right? God of War, Ghost of Yotei stuff. You got to bring in Sonic. I know there's a rumor out there that Sonic's going to get something. You got to make it well-rounded. You got to have something almost for everybody in the show. And if you don't, I mean, again, what does it really change? Well, I think it continues a perception, at least online, of their online shows, but they need it. I think they really do need a really, really solid show. So I'll be watching it. I can't co-stream it, but I'm going to make videos, as soon as it ends. I think actually directly after it ends, I'll be able to do videos on it. Okay. So like I said, give it a couple more hours. Maybe you guys are snoozing off in the middle of the night. I will have a predictions video for the state of play. Okay. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.